Good morning, everybody. Auronnj Jayy here with another War of the Visions video, and today we are going to talk about my top 10-ish TMRs to level in War of the Visions. It's been about 4 months since I put out a tier list like this. I think it needs some updating because we've got a lot of new characters in between then and now. The list has changed. Let's go through it and talk about what TMRs you should invest in. Okay, now before we get into this, remember, I'm not talking about like what the best units are to invest in this game or anything like that. I'm talking about as you get units to level 99, you get that Trustmaster reward, which ones are worth spending your pots on to level. We might have just got a lot of pots from the anniversary, but that's not the normal state of the game. You typically need to be a little bit careful when investing those things. So I'm going to tell you the ones that I suggest investing in, depending on how you like to play the game. We're going to start with Macherie. Now, she's a little bit of a meme unit, but her Trustmaster reward is really, really good. Now, the stats on Seal Maiden's necklace, whatever, but it's an accessory that gives this buff, Knight's Blessing, recovers HP medium of allies within area around self, and bestows a barrier on allies that reduces damage 3 times. Notice it says 3 times. Barrier's one of the strongest things in this game. This is a barrier that isn't turn-based, it's times your hit-based, like Agrius's self-buff, like Tidus's self-buff from Paladin. This gives that buff to units in an AoE. Now, getting the AI to use it, not the easiest thing in the world to do, but if you're manual PvPing, it's amazing, and the AI will use it for the heal, and then you also get that little buff that goes along with it. So Macherie's TMR, very worth investing in. This is one I might even consider taking up to 20 if you're a manual PvP person. If not, maybe 15 or something like that. Okay, next, we're going to our girl Macherie's boyfriend. I don't know, they're having a rough time in the story. That's our dude Mont here. Now, Mont's TMR, the OG TMR in this game, still insanely worth using and leveling. It is the lion emblem. You can see the stats on the screen there, give some defense and some spirit. But Rallying Cry is great. It is an agility buff to your group, but mostly you want to use this as a TMR to control early turn movement with the AI. This is an AI tweaking TMR, and if you're going to use it for that, like if this is the TMR you go to for that, I would suggest leveling it a bit so you can get some more agility, because agility is great. So I suggest taking this TMR up to like maybe level 10, maybe level 15, something like that, and it'll just really help you out. Okay, let's go next. Now, next is a TMR that I use maybe more than any other TMR in the game, and that's Cecil's TMR here, the Saint's Circlet. Now, Saint's Circlet is another accessory. I like accessories, and it gives some attack, some defense. It's really a brawler item, but that's not why you want it. You want it for this buff, Holy Knight's Cheer. Check out the massive AoE on this buff. And do you know what this buff does? Raises attack and magic, but it raises bravery. And it's a permanent bravery raise. That means you get the AI to use this in a fight. Like say you're farming story and you get an AI unit who will just spam this on early turns. That's a permanent increase to your unit's bravery, and it sticks after the fight. You'll get 1 bravery every single fight. This is the best way to farm bravery in this game. Holy Knight's Cheer, worth leveling up because it's one, the AI loves to use it and it's a pretty cool buff, right? Like that by itself is worth it, but it's one of my favorite TMRs in this game because of how easy it makes farming bravery. So, highly recommend Holy Knight's Cheer from Cecil. Next is a very similar TMR to Cecil's TMR. We're going to Mediena here, and Mediena has Kaleido Moon. Now, Kaleido Moon also gives attack and magic up in an AoE, right? This one, though, is targeted on the self, but it also gives acquired AP up for 3 turns. A really, really powerful buff. Any buff to gaining AP, more skills, more damage, more healing, whatever. It's a great, great TMR. You see the AI using this all of the time. I highly recommend getting this TMR to like level 15 or something like that. Its biggest drawback is that it's an armor. I know, it makes no sense. Somehow the stupid moon that sits on top of her head is armor. Go figure, right? I have no idea. But if it was an accessory, it would be like a top 3 TMR in the game. As it stands now, I still think it's a top 10, top 15 TMR in the game, and worth leveling to 15 or 20 if it's one of your best TMRs that you have. Okay, next, I want to talk about Glaciela WoTV next. Let's bring her up on the screen. There she is. So here's Glaciela, and she has White Wolf's armor. Now again, I'm not the biggest fan in the world of armor TMRs. I just think there's better farmable armors in the game, but hers is really nice. War Maiden's Vitality gives AP and slash resist. So you're combining a really cool buff if you're going for a slash resist party with AP. You get 20 AP if you max this thing out. I have maxed this thing out. I use this quite regularly. Like, let's say I'm running a full slash resist team, and I need somebody to just run out there and tank 2 or 3 hits from a slasher. Boom, I'll throw this on them, and maybe that pushes them to that 100% slash resistance. Really, really good TMR. Been around for a long time, and I still like it. Probably like a top 12, maybe like 12th or 13th best TMR in the game, in my opinion right now. Now, next is one that I did not have on my last list at all, and bad on me for that. I missed this one. It's Glinting Armor from Rob. Now, again, it's an armor which I don't like. That's probably why I passed on it the first time. But the usefulness of this Keen Blade buff cannot be overstated. First of all, a slash attack buff is really good. Lots of slash attackers in this game. More slash attack is more damage. And then the CT up is very, very, very valuable for early turn manipulation, like helping the AI get more turns in auto PvP, helping yourself get more turns in manual PvP. So I suggest leveling this one up for that buff if you're into that like early game manipulation of the AI that's so important to be successful in Guild Wars and Arena and all of those things. Now, it also costs 42 TP to use, which means it's going to generate you a nice 21 AP when you use the skill, which is also really nice. So Rob's TMR, love it a lot, easily makes the list. Let's go next. All right, next we're going to go to Rain. Excuse me, this is one that was on my list last time, but I still think it's super good. Rain's Clothes. If you find yourself in a magic meta, like Yuna Sakura teams or something like that, Rain's Clothes, very, very good. First of all, the armor itself is actually decent, right? 496 HP, 14 spirit, good. The buff is really nice. It is a spirit AoE buff that the AI likes to use, so they'll run to their friends, they'll buff everybody's spirit up, boom, you're taking less damage from mages, and a lot of times when you're fighting mages, the trick to beating them is just not getting one shot. If you can go take their hits and then go kill them, that's a lot of times the way to beat them. So I really like Guardians fighting spirit. Also good in PvE. I've used this a lot in like really hard content, like against bosses that are heavy magic. If I got units that are just dying, well, hey, I can throw Rain's Clothes on there. Again, a 42 cost TP buff helps my dudes generate some AP and helps everybody live. Really like Rain's TMR. All right, next up is another new one. This is a unit that has been more recently introduced to the game. That is Garvall here and his Peacetime Brooch. Now, it's an accessory. Thumbs up, really like accessories. 8 defense, 8 crit. The stats on it kind of aren't very good, but this buff is very good. Raises own magic and magic attack resistance piercing rate for 3 turns. Like we were just talking about with mages, a lot of the trick to beating mages is surviving one hit for them, while simultaneously a lot of the trick to succeeding as mages is one-shotting things, and Fury Surge from Peacetime Brooch is going to help you one-shot things. So this is a TMR that if you like to run Garvall or a lot of mages, I suggest maybe maxing this one out and just watching the spike in damage that your mages get from leveling Fury Surge. Really, really good. Highly recommend. Okay, next I want to talk about another one that I ignored last time, but it's kind of on a group of TMRs, and that's Kain and his Dragoon Helmet. Now, there's other TMRs that have a very similar buff to this, and I'm kind of going to group them all right now. So let's talk about it. First of all, it's armor. Don't love armor very much, but I do love the buff Dragoon's Pride. It's going to give you a movement +1 buff and haste. Both of those things are situationally very, very good. Again, in this game, one of the most important things you have to do is control when and how often your units move and where they move to. So this is a great way of manipulating how far your characters can move and how fast they move with that haste. Now, the TP cost on this one in particular is a drawback at only 24. I wish it was more expensive than that, so it would generate more AP. But the haste is very valuable, and the move +1 is very valuable. There are other TMRs in the game like this. For example, Christmas Ramada's TMR, the Sagewood Hairpin. The buff on this is attack up and move +1. So there's a lot of these movement enhancing TMRs, and if you need to use them, if you need to give extra range to your units with that move up, then leveling these might be worth, so you get that benefit from the attack up or the haste up, because that's really what's going to improve as you level these things. So I really like those TMRs, and if you need them, I suggest using them. I'm going to take a drink real quick. This stream brought to you by water. Drink water. It's good for you. Okay, let's go next. The next two are really obvious ones, in my opinion. It's the best two TMRs in the game by far. They were 1 and 2 on the last list. They're 1 and 2 on this list. At 2 is Uldoa's Apron. Inherited Tyranny is just insanely good. It gives AP regen, which is obviously amazing, and it gives defense piercing. Take this to 20. If you have this, take it to 20. The only drawback of this TMR is it's not wearable by a ton of people. And sometimes the people who can't wear it don't make a lot of sense to me. It's a apron. Everybody can strap on an apron, right? You would think. But no, not a ton of people in the game can wear it. So, here's the conditions to equip, right? The list is just not long enough, in my opinion. I think everybody should be able to wear this if they want to, but that's not where the creators went, and this is the world we live in. So, that's why it comes in at number 2. Number 1 is the most obvious one probably in the history of lists ever. And that's Illusory Bell from Jayy. Literally, account-defining TMR to this day. It was out on day 1. And if any of us content creators were big brain back in the day, we would have told everybody to go for Jayy on day 1 just to get bells. Revitalize, AP restore on self for 3 turns, and literally everybody can wear this thing. Look at this list. It's everybody in the game. So that makes it super, super good. I do want to talk about Tidus real quick, though, because Tidus's shoes are really good for him. And I don't really know that they're good for anybody else or necessary for him. I considered putting these on the list in a big way, but the buff where it gives him a critical hit, which he crits all the time, kind of without this, and critical damage up, that does seem really good, but I like bells on Tidus. In my opinion, Tidus needs that AP regen, and since he's somebody who can wear Uldoa's Apron and somebody who can wear Jesus' bells, I think those are better on him than his shoes, and I don't know who else would want to wear his shoes, although the stats on them are pretty good with 5 agility, 7 defense, so Tidus' shoes are a good TMR. They're really best on him, and there's other TMRs I'd like to run on him. The other Final Fantasy X units, we might as well just talk about their TMRs, since basically everybody's working on these right now. Oh my god, how did I forget this? Yuna's clothing, you guys. Yuna's clothing is a top 10 TMR in this game. It's armor, which sucks, but the smile practice is really, really good. It's a heal in an AoE that bestows Protect and Shell. You want to level this thing, get that Protect and Shell, protecting and shelling as hard as they can. I've seen this TMR turn the tide of fights almost by itself, where people are just on that edge of getting one shot and they're low. Boom, smile practice procs. Now they got Protect and Shell on, and they're no longer close to getting one shot. They're getting healed up every turn. It's insane. This is a great, great TMR. Highly recommend leveling it if Yuna's one of your, especially if Yuna's one of your first big time units, your newer. Good investment of your pots right here. Yuna's clothing. Now, Auronnj's TMR is probably my biggest disappointment TMR from the Final Fantasy X units. Again, it's armor. The stats are okay. And then the buff piercing is 3 turns of attack up with no confusion or petrify. I mean, yeah, you don't want to get confused or petrified, but that's really situational. And you're going to get that from the TMR, whether it's leveled or not. So the only thing leveling does is increase the attack up. So I think if you're ever in like a PvE situation where you need to block Petrify or Confuse, you can still use this without leveling it up. That's why it doesn't make my list here. Okay, and now that is the list. So I hope you guys got something from this. I hope now you kind of understand how I think about leveling TMRs. What I think is good. If you have any questions about a different TMR or think I missed something on the list, please do leave that in the comments. If you need some Amazon coins, please consider using my Amazon coin affiliate link down in the chat. And yeah, hit that like button. I'll catch you next time. Later.